Tonight on The Breakdown, will the Aussie teams win a game in Super Rugby Trans-Tasman? The Sevens teams are finally back in action in the build-up to the Tokyo Olympics, and Kieran Read joins us from quarantine.
Kia ora koutou katoa, malo lele talofa bula, hello and welcome to The Breakdown. And simply said, Team New Zealand is in complete control of Sky Super Rugby Trans-Tasman after another clean sweep over the weekend for the New Zealand sides. It has reached a critical point for the Australian teams as we go forward. So John Kerwin, Mills, Hannah's with us as well. Hannah, another weekend, we go 5-0. What did you take away from the 5 games? Or was there other games that you were more interested in?
Yeah, I'm gonna say the return of Portia Woodman after 3 years of coming back from some pretty serious injuries. She was a standout for that team, winning 5 out of 6 games.
Outstanding. And look, it was a great weekend. Han, you talk about it, but to see her come back, we spoke to her about, I think, middle of last year about where she was at, and she was so excited to be back out playing, and this is the sort of action we're going to need come Olympics time.
Yeah, absolutely, and Aussie obviously up there with the best in the world. Really good chance for them just to test where they are, and for the coaches to have a really good think about actually their final selections for the Olympics.
We're going to chat about them in depth with Ricky Swinnell a little bit later on and talk about what's coming up in front of them. For you, Mills, the action, Chiefs got the job done. I know you had a weekend sitting on the couch watching the games.
Oh, mate.
Let's run us through it. You know, what did you think?
I think it was quite good. Luke Jacobson, for me, was very impressive, you know, leading from the front. And, you know, after the weekend before, we got sort of yellow card, then red carded. Some nice tries from Julian Savia. I know there was a few older guys that sort of took to the field, Liam Messam in particular. But seeing some of those guys, perform for me really was quite pleasing. He
was outstanding, Liam Messam. So good. For you, JK, it comes out of the same game, but something a little bit different.
Yeah, well, it's always nice in the post-match to see a man especially say something emotional and intelligent, and it wasn't Jeff Wilson, it was who interviewed Brad Weber.
Just a big shout out to my cousin Erin and her lovely girlfriend Natalie. They're getting married today down in Hawke's Bay. I'm sorry I couldn't be there, and thank you for teaching me and a lot of people that love is love, no matter what shape or form it comes, and I hope you've had a great day.
That was my best interview I've ever done. Didn't say a word.
Beautiful. Enjoyed
that. Thanks very much, JK. Appreciate the chat. OK, let's get into it because I once again want to get this over and done with. Get the table out there and show us exactly. JK is celebrating. Arms are in the air like he scored his highest test try scoring ever. There it is. The Blues are on top. The Hurricanes, they both got their bonus points.
2 weeks in a row, people.
Like
Take
it's
a
never
photo of that.
before. Like
what about the points difference? That's the biggest thing, Mills.
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of things to talk about in that. The fact the Hurricanes got their job done. You think about the Crusaders, they've played the 2 finalists from Super Rugby Australia, so they've beaten the Reds and they've beaten the Brumbies, so we know what's in front of them. I know we shouldn't take anything for granted, though, Hannah, but how do you see the difference at the moment between the Australian sides and what the Kiwi sides are bringing?
Yeah, the physical dominance from the Kiwi sides, being able to get over the advantage line and not die with the ball, their ability to keep the ball alive is really impressive from not only their outside backs but everyone on the park.
I think it's, you're absolutely right. We do see glimpses of it from the Australian teams. The problem with that is it's only glimpses. We compare it to New Zealand sides, it's consistent. So everyone across the board, can bring that sort of attitude and the skill set as well. So they are a little way off, and I know there's a number of factors that sort of have resulted in that, but I think that's probably the niggly part, that they're still quite a wee way off.
JK, I'll ask you, I look at these sides and they've talked about the talent coming through. They've talked about these under-21 sides that have had success, and then they're coming through their separate teams or some of them together, but they're not quite, at the moment, they're not stepping up to the mark. Can you see that changing?
No.
And
well, look, I think there's a couple of things happening. I believe that they're trying to change their game, and I'm seeing parts of that when they were playing against each other. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed is their contact fitness. I said it pre-game on Saturday, what I've noticed is something similar, that when I got to Japan, the Japanese national side was really fit, but when we played Tonga and Samoa, Mills, we couldn't handle the contact, and you had to train it. And that's what it looked like to me for the Australian sides, that under contact pressure, they were making some of those silly errors that would then change the game. So if you watch the Blues games on the weekend, they were playing okay, and then they had to make stupid little mistakes under pressure, boom, it would be all over. So you can't let everyone off the hook.
Doesn't experience, though, Han, count for something? And I look at this Force outfit, the fact that, no, they haven't won a game, but both games they've been at home, you get that. But reality for me, they've got a lot of older senior players, the likes of and their imports. Guys have come in, the likes of Rob Carney at fullback. They've got a Richard Kahui, a Jeremy Thrush. I mean, is that a solution maybe for some of the other sides, introducing some more hardened experience?
Yeah, I think so. And the thing that the Force have done is they haven't let the game get away on them. They've stayed pretty close in the last 2 games that they've had, and they were actually the only Australian team to go away with a bonus point.
Exactly. So I look at there and going, you know what, we watched the Reds and we watched the Brumbies and we thought they were on track, and then all of a sudden, particularly the Reds' performance, and that to me was possibly the biggest surprise on the weekend, because I didn't see 28-0 coming after 20-odd minutes.
Oh, particularly when they've travelled now back home to where they've just won the final, and so hometown advantage is absolutely massive. I think the fix is they've got to be in a competition where they're playing us Kiwis. This Trans-Tasman for them and experience in it. That's the only way they can start to get that physical dominance or feel what it sort of actually really is on a consistent base, week in, week out. Until that sort of happens, regularly, well, I don't think they can match it, because you can't do it in training.
JK, was this a special performance from the Crusaders? If you think about it, this is champion v champion. Maybe they were well and truly motivated. The chat going into this, we know there's a lot of Kiwis in Brisbane, and it seemed as though the crowd was sort of just enjoying what was a great spectacle. But I thought this was an outstanding performance, and to see them continue on their great form.
Well, let's not make no mistake that the Crusaders can do that to anyone, right? And they started to do it at the beginning of Rugby Aotearoa, and I think that the other sides had to work really, really hard to raise their level, right? But they did look like they were having fun on the weekend. It looked like there's a little less contact, little less intensity, and they just exploded. And I think, we know if we go down there and we make a mistake, they're going to pounce on it. And the Reds just made too many mistakes, of which the Crusaders are one of the best sides at turning those mistakes into points straight away.
If we didn't think then, Han, that we needed bonus points, if the sides didn't think they needed bonus points, do you think they'd play the same way that they've been playing in the first couple of weeks? Because it looks as though we went through a period of kicking our points, thinking threes become really valuable, and this competition, and it was relentless in Wellington, Hurricanes just kept going to the sideline when they were giving away threes. Would it be different if we weren't chasing bonus points? Yeah,
I think it would. I think you'd see the game tighten up a little bit, but that performance from Moanga on the weekend in particular, a masterclass on seeing vision, kick passes, long passes running into space. As JK said, absolutely having some fun out there.
And looks as though, too, all of a sudden, once we relax a little bit, the Australian teams relax a little bit, and it just, as they try to chase us, and when you start chasing us on the scoreboard, Mills, that is when it gets dangerous playing New Zealand sides.
Exactly, but that's also reflective on what the score is. You get a little bit of momentum, you're up, the line out, you've looked at the Rebels, in this case, the Hurricanes, and you can take on their line out. Why would you? And then, obviously when the Australian teams are chasing the game, they have to throw the ball around. Yeah, I think there is an element where you've got to chase bonus point because only the top 2 teams go in, particularly from a New Zealand side point of view now. But I think it's also reflective of the opposition that you're playing and the fact that we've got up and sort of led for for a good part of the game to be able to throw the ball around a bit.
Here's a question for you. Do you think Dave Rennie can pick a competitive Australian side out of that?
I think so, because we had our doubts last year, didn't we, around whether or not they would be competitive, and they proved to be by the end of the season. They were very, very good in a lot of phases. A little bit inconsistent, but like you say, you talked about them possibly trying to change their game. He will have talked to them about the things that he's expecting from them, but in the end, these teams have to stand alone by themselves. They can't just be looking at that going, this is what I've got, this is how we want to play. But we are hopeful, I think, this weekend that we're going to see contests once again, which are not just entertaining, but maybe just that little bit closer. That's here, of course, that's across the Tasman. Ricky, plenty of news coming from around the world.
There has been a lot going on around the world. We're going to start in Europe, though. Double World Cup winner JEROME has added the European Champions Cup to his collection of titles after he and Charlie Faumuina helped Toulouse beat a 14-man La Rochelle in the all all-French final at Twickenham. At 38, KAINO is one of the older professionals going around. He shades Liam Messam by a year, but he's still 1 year younger than the 39-year-old Ma'anonu, who's still going around, moving from France to the United States. To Japan, and Beauden Barrett heads home from his 6-month stint at Suntory, having lost the Japan Top League final to Panasonic, the team coached by Robbie Deans. Barrett says he really enjoyed his time in Japan, but of course he faces a tough old challenge now as he tries to secure the All Blacks number 10 jersey ahead of the in-form Richie Mo'unga. Japan will play the British and Irish Lions at Murrayfield in Edinburgh on June 26, with the crowd restricted to 25% of capacity. That's about 16,500 fans. However, will still be the largest rugby crowd in the UK for 16 months. How good to see fans getting back around Europe. Things aren't great though in South Africa, where the Lions are of course headed. All school contact sport in the Republic is banned at the moment in an effort to curb the spread of COVID-19. Fingers crossed for the Lions tour. But going back, team, to JEROME KAINO. I don't know if he's going to pop up in the very reasoned discussion I'm sure you're about to have. I guess the question now, though, after all he's achieved, does he play on? Does he go on to 39?
I'll be fascinated to see someone who
Go to
knows
the
this better.
Force.
What's that? He goes to the
Yeah,
Force.
there you go,
He goes to the Force. Thanks, Ricky. Mills, you know him better than any of us, and you looked at his career and you look where things are right now at his age. Do you think maybe he tries one more season, or is it time for him to hang him up?
Well, what does he need to prove now? I think that's probably what he's sort of thinking now. He's gone over there. He's won 2 Rugby World Cups. You know, he's played for, I'm not too sure whether he part of that 2003 team, might be a little bit too young. But, you know, to go over to Europe too is impressive, and to be able to win, you know, a couple of titles over there. You not only, it's not just the style of play that's different, you know, and he's taken that physical sort of nature of his game over there and really sort of honed in on it, and because that's what you have to do. It's not just that, it's the language barrier, but everything. But if you're going to retire now, great time to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. With that sort of success, and you think about what he was to New Zealand rugby and how much he meant to the Blues and to the All Blacks, and when you can't find someone to replace him, and we're still asking the question, right? When you look at his career, how do you see it from a New Zealand perspective?
Yeah, immense from New Zealand. What he did in that Blues team, the leadership he brought, without saying too many words, but just his play on the field, right? And he looks like he's taking it over there into the French competition. On a selfish point of view, I'd love to see him back. He's one of the coaches down at North Shore Rugby Club, so I'd love to see him get the green and white back on and get down to there.
Desperate times. Desperate message down at North Shore. I'd like to see him down there as well. But JK, for you, maybe it's time he's earned the right maybe to hang him up and enjoy life after rugby.
Well, he's earned the right to do what he wants to do, probably. You know, and I think the hardest thing for all of us when we retire is actually what we're going to do next. So I think that'll play a big role in it. You know, he might have, I see Ma'a's gone to be player coach in America, so if Jerome's going to transition into the game, he might stay and do a season somewhere. But he's certainly earned the right to put his feet up if he wants to and put his shoulder away, because that hurt a few people. But it won't be an easy transition. I mean, the longer they stay in the game, the more it becomes part of what you do every day. And so it'll be difficult, but I'm sure he'll be fine.
Looking forward to seeing him back in New Zealand at some point. And congratulate him on what's been a fantastic career. If it's come to an end, but you never know, because we see him miss him, he just can't give it up. We've got Ma'anonu playing around the world. What I did do, though, last night, as I sat and talked and thought about the show and thought to myself, after that fantastic performance from Richie Mo'unga, I thought to myself, who has been the greatest Super Rugby player of its era? The last 20-odd years. And I thought to myself, let's have the conversation. And as I came into the office, JK decided, what are the stipulations? What does it all mean? And I'm
what's
saying
the context? I said, what's the context?
The context
you can't just
for me
throw
is,
that out. Like...
OK. So they had to have played a minimum 5 seasons. Longevity counts. The fact you can't be a one-season wonder, then go overseas. OK, you've had to have won titles and had success. Otherwise, how do you back up and justify what has been your career as a Super Rugby player? Now, remembering, I'm talking just Super Rugby. And the impact on your team and competition. And how competitive do you think your team would be without that player?
What is
right?
OK, so what you're saying, if the player's not there, you can't win?
Well, not that you can't win, but it becomes significantly more difficult. And so after the weekend, I just threw it out that maybe it is Richie Mo'unga. You think about the 3 Super Rugby titles plus Super Rugby Aotearoa and another Super Rugby Aotearoa. I'm looking at his performance, the impact he has on the game, and I don't know if I've seen a player. And yes, he's playing for a Crusaders team, which is outstanding. And they are giving him a platform to play off. But under pressure in big moments when the game is on the line, he's found ways to win. And his ability week on week to perform. And from the very moment he stepped on that field for them, he has been outstanding. Now you can come at me. I've had my go.
No South African teams for the last 2 years.
Yes, I agree with that. Absolutely.
Get over there and get the late tackles and...
It's not an issue we've had.
I'm not disagreeing. I think he's absolutely outstanding. But Richie McCaw?
Absolutely, yeah. And but saying that through his career, if you think about the players who have won the number of titles.
I don't know what Hannah thinks, but it's hard to disagree with what you've come up, Jeff, and considering his age as well. You know, I look at those two titles, couple of titles that he won earlier on. He was out. He had a broken hand. He was out in the following, you know, so he was out for a considerable amount of time. He came back and still done stuff like this, like he's doing against the Reds. You know, he was out the following year with a hamstring injury or something for, you know, at least 5 or 6 weeks. He came back. But for me, really, it's the big moments that he wins. It's not big moments where you win it to get a line out and then try and score. He wins big moments. You look at the Chiefs game when they play the Chiefs, you know, they're under the pump. Like, you know, you kick a ball. You decide in your mind whether you're good enough to kick that ball 10 metres, win it, not only just win it back, but then score a try. Big moments like against, you know, a Reds team. Yeah, he's had a couple of dips, but I think his dips are still world class. So when you look at someone like that and how significant, you know, some of the stuff he does and the titles that he's won, I know, you know, we haven't played South Africa, but I think his influence on, you know, on the Crusaders is huge.
A lot of great players through the eras, though, Hannah. And do you suggest someone different, or is there an argument for you who you look at it and go, you know what, they are a player who's had greater influence?
Yeah, 141 games, 1,700 points. For me, there's only one person that can be, and that's Dan Carter, I think. Richie Mo'unga's on the way to track that path, but he's not quite there yet. The amount of games that Dan Carter played and the influence that he had on all of them stand out.
Yeah, and it's hard to argue it. And one of the things you're always going to get to the point is the fact it's very, very difficult to win this competition, JK, as most teams have found out, without a world-class 10. And there's a number of guys, and I'm going to put this list up before you go and come back. And look, there's Dan Carter, and you're right, Hannah, you know, you can't argue with his success, part of a fantastic Crusaders team. But here's a list of players I just put together. Obviously, there's the titles. Dan Carter's won 3. Mornay Stain, that fantastic Bulls first 5-8 when they went through there, he wins 3 titles. Why have I got George Gregan there, where I believe the Brumbies without George Gregan, you think those 136 games, it ended up with 2 titles, but significantly improved their ability to win. And then Andrew Mertens won 5 titles. And through that era, through the 90s and early 2000s, remarkable player. So I look across that, JK, and I'm going, yes, there's playmakers. We've had so many other great players, but I look at it in the fact that if he didn't get the title, if he didn't get the chip, the ring, you know, the things you talk about, can you separate yourselves? And there's been great players by position, but for the whole competition over time, Carlos Spencer, another one in that conversation.
Big lossy. Yeah, no, look, for me it's a real interesting one because I cannot get the thought out of my mind of what you do in the All Blacks and then come back to Super. So that's probably clouding. I think that Richie Mo'unga has the possibility to be our best ever, right? And when Dan Carter retired, I go, what are we going to do now? And then Bowden comes along, and Bowden's sort of been, you know, away a little bit, and we're thinking, oh, this guy's the future. He comes on, and then Richie Mo'unga the other night was just outstanding. But I struggle when he's so young and only this far through his career. So I would say to you, this guy could break all the records, but for me, of all time, I'd probably have to go with DC at the moment.
At the moment, and that's what you're talking about, right? You talk about, and I must admit, look, as I threw it out there when I was saying it to myself, yeah, I recognise the fact that he is young, but I look at some other guys who've had great influence. You like Chivikev and Mialamu, but in the end, when you're not playing in that pivotal position, when you're under those pressure moments and having to make those decisions, Christian Cullen, we know, was one of the greatest fullbacks ever to play the game, but his ability to impact a game, we talked about the possibility of, say, an Aaron Smith. I mean, those are critical things.
So you're just ignoring every other position, is that what you're telling me?
I'm not ignoring every other position. I think it just emphasises more and more the fact how critical it is if you want to have success at any level. Hence, that's why they're in demand, right?
Was Richie McCaw on your list?
Well, of course he was on my list, but reality was, how injured was he? How many games did he play? Did he rest?
4 titles.
Yeah.
3 as captain.
Yeah. I'd say he had a greater influence on the All Blacks. I think he was the greatest All Black of all time. But in terms of Super Rugby and leading it on, look, my list was flawed. I knew that. So I look at the fact that once again, though.
So Richie really needs, if you're saying that, if Richie wants to be the best, he needs to secure that number 10 jersey for the All Blacks.
Exactly.
And right now, what you guys are saying, you're going away from the fact that he's the best Super Rugby player. You're saying he's got to be the best of the best. So
well, I think
he's got competition.
I was thinking on the weekend when he was playing against the Reds, I hope he plays in the All Black 10 with that joy and freedom, because I haven't seen that yet. And it's a different level, we all know that. But wow, he's exciting and he just seems to have this confidence with him. And it's always hard. We all know how hard it is when you go to international and all of a sudden time gets shorter.
So how do we morph that conversation then? The fact that if he's playing at that level and you're getting guys at that level, how do we take some of the positive things, Hannah, that may be happening at the Crusaders? And obviously they're playing with momentum right now. How do they take that across to the next level? Because surely you'd want to hold on to that, because when you see the freedom they're playing with, that's something special. You've been in teams, right, when all of a sudden it's just going.
Yep. And sometimes it doesn't translate into the national team, right? You've got to take a different culture and different group of players. But hopefully the first couple of test matches against Fiji will afford him the ability to actually play like he's been playing in Super Rugby.
Yeah, and that's critical, right? I mean, challenging though, Mills and JK, for those teams, when you look at the form of our sides right now, and I know this is just changing tangent a little bit, but that's going to be a big ask for both Tonga and Fiji coming up against an All Blacks team, which is playing at a level at the moment.
Yeah, I'm actually worried about those games. I don't think they should go ahead unless we free the guys from Tongan and Fijian descent from here and don't ban them from playing in the future, and the players come home from Europe. I'd rather see a north-south or a possibles-probables with Bowden at 10 and Moanga on the other 10 and mix the two forward packs up. I reckon that'd be... I'd go and see that game every day of the week. My biggest concern is, and I want to see Pacifica Rugby get the chance, but are they going to be able to be prepared to play a battle-hardened group of players that have just come off two amazingly difficult tournaments? That's my biggest worry. So it's no use getting Wichi Moanga out there against Fiji if we're going to beat them by 60 or 70 or 80. We're not going to learn anything. So that's my biggest concern.
And that's what we're waiting for, isn't it, Mills, the fact, the availability of Northern Hemisphere players, because we know at a Rugby World Cup, these teams, when they come together, they are incredibly competitive and they can handle the level. If they don't get the players, do you hold the same concerns?
Oh, absolutely. I'll have to agree. Like, the fact is, you're not going to get the best players. I mean, they've got to come all the way from Europe. All their clubs let them go. So what do you get out of it? I mean, the fact is, COVID is a massive thing. So we have to kind of, get some games or some test matches, underway. What are the results going to be? Well, I just can't. They won't be competitive at all. And so, where does that put, the Pacific Island, nations? I mean, I know you've got to start somewhere. But look at where the Aussies have come in terms of, Super Rugby Aotearoa compared to AU. I mean, then you go to another level. So it's just, I can't, it's a real concern to me, really.
North-South, bring it back. North-South, bars.
Bring it back. We only had it for 1 year. It's not bringing it back. It's just play it again. I will say this is, though, if you disagree with us, email us at thebreakdown.co.nz. JK will read through all of the replies and he'll answer every single one of them personally. That's what I'm thinking, Ricky.
You around your context.
I've already sent my email.
Oh, have you? Oh, yeah, right, sorry.
Right, trivia question. Now, this is one of those things that... well, look, it's one of the ones that hasn't necessarily been the strong suit. It's a how many. The Highlanders playing in Queenstown this weekend, playing the Rebels. There's a road trip for you. How many times previously have the Highlanders played in Queenstown?
I can tell you how many times they've won.
Competition?
Yeah. Okay. Competition? Yeah. There's a question.
Pre-season?
How many times?
Pre-season?
No, Super Rugby. So how many times Super Rugby have the Highlanders played in Queenstown? You guys at home can have a think about that as well. After the break, of course, we're going to catch up and see how our Sevens team got on finally back into international footy.
It's generally regarded as the scenic wonderland of New Zealand, the Central Otago region, and more specifically Queenstown, the venue today for the first ever Super Rugby match at this location. Now they require quick hands here, and they've got a big overlap. Good opportunity here. Lucky Marty Pola. Taken across the 22 by Nathan White. Here's Sevi Vatu strong. Sevi Vatu, oh, brilliant. Too powerful. And the bonus point try. Now Messam across to Hola. Boy, there's numbers here again. Here's Sevi Vatu. Still got it. Gets the pass away, and Sweeney hands it off to Masanga. And in he goes.
What's happening with you, mate? You've been in the press, brother.
Oh, yeah, I know.
It's worth it, brother.
Yeah,
Take it, mate, take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see what God has for me.
Eh?
We'll see what God has in plan for me.
Yeah, well, that's the key, isn't it, eh? Yeah, well, don't go breaking an arm.
Yeah. How's that lovely wife of yours?
The last time I saw her, she was pretty good.
Yeah.
That was this afternoon.
Yeah. What's for dinner tonight?
No, I'm going up to a meeting at the moment. We had a big feast. We had Macca's. Took the grandkids out for Macca's.
Well, that's the one, eh?
Yeah, mate. Well, you got the Sky crew. Goodness gracious, I'm interfering.
Nah, you're good.
Okay, mate.
See you, mate. Hey, it's always good to talk to you, Jim.
Take care, mate.
Have a good day.
Bless you, brother.
The next instalment of All Access coming up after breakdown. Nani Laumape, although I think the neighbour Jim might be a bit of a star of that one already. Right before the break, we asked the team the trivia question. How many times previously have the Highlanders played in Queenstown? JK?
4.
No. Hannah?
3.
And actually, to be fair to
I did have 3 written down, but I didn't know we haven't won
it. Piece of paper.
We haven't. I had it written down before I saw your piece of paper, though. I had it written down.
You
You're cheating.
You did.
Goldie, you cheater.
Here they are here.
South Africa.
Here they are here.
Here they are.
Here they are here. Here they are here. Here they go. And L. And a loss to the Force.
See, that's what happens.
Twice.
It's a tough drive across from Dunedin to Queenstown.
Yeah,
3 and a
it's
bit
an
hours.
arduous
Ricky, when you're sitting next to Goldie, just put the paper back like that.
I'd written it down well and truly beforehand. I'd said the 0 was the number of times they'd won. I knew that for a fact.
And I've had this lying around just sitting out for basically the last 3 hours and you never seen it.
Well done, Hannah.
Anyway,
Well done, Hannah. Well done, Hannah.
Give Jess some credit there. Didn't have it. I know, Mills, you
I've got 3 written down.
somewhere. All right. Speaking of numbers, 470 odd days since the Black Fern Sevens took the field, something like 440 for the men. They finally got to do so this weekend. International Trans-Tasman Sevens. The Sky crew went along to check it out.
It was amazing just to be out there again with the girls. We've been training so hard, you know, playing against each other. It's been fun playing against each other, but man, was it good to play against Australia, a good quality side and, you know, one of the top teams in the world as well.
Michaela Blythe in the corner for the first score.
My mum came up from the Naki and she doesn't usually drop the cows for me, so to have her there on the sideline cheering for me has been amazing, and to be able to give her a cuddle after the game just makes it that much sweeter. So no, we're really grateful to be given the opportunity to play here at home.
It's good to feel that little bit of burn and a little bit of hurt from a normal tournament. For myself personally, it's good getting the body back into the rhythm of a full tournament.
Weren't exactly happy with how we kind of started most of those games. We started a bit slow. We showed, especially at Eden Park, game 4, we showed how hard we're willing to work for each other to actually fight back. And you know, it's only 40 minutes, so a few mistakes, you know, you can get left behind. But to be able to fight back and to come back and win those games, you know, big ups to the girls for digging deep.
Now puts player in space. Mugabe Black back in field for Rush on debut. Brady Rush dives for the line and scores.
The depth in our team has been amazing. Like the coaches have built a good foundation for us. So anyone that comes in, you could just fit straight into our team and our culture as well. So it's been good. Seeing all the young boys, especially like Brady, Willie, and that shining out on the field. So it's good to see what they can do, and especially mixing in with the old boys. So it's been good.
We head back to Tauranga in a couple days' time, and then we have about 3 weeks in Tauranga to train together as a team, and then we're off again to Australia to play against Aussie and potentially Fiji as well, and then that's when the campaign starts. So we could potentially be away for about 8 weeks, but the girls are mentally prepared for that. We understand that the commitment is there, and we're all in now. So we're just looking ahead. The Olympics is just that little bit more closer now, so it's getting really exciting.
Yeah, I think the plan is to head away, hopefully get over to Aussie, play some games, a couple of weeks build up in Japan somewhere, and then hopefully head over to Tokyo and fingers crossed we win us a gold medal.
I honestly will hate to be our coaches right now because everyone is putting their hand up to be selected, and that's what you want though. You want the competition, and that's amazing to see all these girls putting their hand up to be like, yes, I want to represent our country on the world stage.
You know, we're going to go home and we're still going to be hard on ourselves. We're still going to do those extra work-ons and that extra fitness as well. So come Olympics, we're going to be hopefully unstoppable.
So you're talking 4 games a day, 2 games for each team a day, which is replicating what's happening at the Olympics. Ricky, you did all 12 games, which is an amazing. I
put in a pretty big shift.
That's a pretty big shift. But for you, do you think the teams and the players got what they needed out of that tournament?
Honestly, and I spoke to coaching staff from both teams, players from both teams, John Manenti, the Aussie women's coach, he said, and Tim Walsh, the Australian men's coach, said he's never been so relieved to see a black jersey because they are all just so sick of playing each other. And you can try and replicate it as much as you want, but the idea of actually playing, and these are, particularly the women, such great rivals, good quality sevens, and they replicated the tournament feel. So the 2 games a day is how it'll play at the Olympics. So Game 4 at Eden Park on Saturday night was interesting because that was effectively would have been a quarter-final. Both the New Zealand teams had to win it at home.
Which is great in terms of giving them opportunities, right? And you mentioned, Hannah, the fact the likes of Portia Woodman coming back, and for all these players, getting the ability and the confidence and just playing on the big stage, in the big field, in the stands. But they've got some challenges coming up after this now.
Yeah, they do. And really pleasing to see the big players stand up as well. The Ruby Tuis, Portia Woodman, Tyler Nathan Wong, they had standout performances. I think the biggest difference is playing in the rain at Eden Park versus playing in 40-degree heat in Japan, which is something they'll have to get used to in Australia, right? Yeah,
and playing it I was hypothermic at Grammar-Tech on Sunday, and Grammar-Tech did a great job putting it on. The men's team, interesting, Mills, you that Clark Laidler on the Saturday at Eden Park, he put Scott Curry and Tim Mickelson on the bench, didn't play as big guns, and wanted to see how the young boys would go against the Australians. They came out, won it at the death.
I guess if there's anything that the coaches and our, very smart, is that, how do these guys adapt to pressure, particularly when, from a training point of view, they've trained for so long and played against, each other, they've adapted, they know each other's strengths and weaknesses, but how can you actually go out there and adapt to, the big times, the big stage when you don't know too much about who you're playing against, and also the preparation and making sure you get that sort of right. So, yeah, great stuff.
Where are the squad sides sitting now?
So they basically had all their contracted players, so 21, 22 players with a couple of injuries. Kurt Baker set out for the men and a couple out for the women. So they're going to go to Australia at the end of next month, up to Townsville, some warm weather. They'll take 18 there, and then they start to make the cruel cuts. And I would hate to be having to select those teams.
And JK, that's one of the biggest challenges, right? The fact when a block of time you're going to be away, you're going to be away from your family, but also you're competing for a spot to go to the Olympics. And for a number of players that have come from Super Rugby, the likes of Atini Nanai-Saturo, and you've got Caleb Clark, they're also getting familiar with the Sevens game again. I'm fascinated to see how this plays out.
Well, COVID has brought so much uncertainty, and I saw Liam Barry before the game, and like you said, Ricky, just playing against an opposition, especially Australians, was fantastic. But now they're going from COVID uncertainty to selection uncertainty, and the sacrifice that these players are going to have to make. Also, they're taking them away, and someone's going to get the word in Sydney that they have to come home, and then others are going to have to go to Tokyo, not be with the team, and stay in a hotel in isolation in case someone gets injured. So, you've gone from this, wow, this is great, to this incredible moment now where they're going to have to make incredible sacrifices moving forward. That's tough.
And it's how tough is, this is the Olympics we're talking about, and I don't want to sort of, water down the fact, won Commonwealth Games medals and things, that they have to be the pinnacle of sport to be able to go to. So, all that training, all that hard work, and to go there and then it's such a tough ask for the coaches to do that. But that's what they get paid the big money for.
The big money for, but also, Hannah, I look at the weight of expectation as it gets closer and closer. These are opportunities for us to win gold medals. And for New Zealanders and for a New Zealand population, we hang on to that. We love the fact that we've got a chance to do it. And so for the players, how do you deal with that? That's got to be a massive part of the preparation, right? Yeah, I think so. And they're both expected to come away with the medal now, and certainly in that women's competition, potentially a gold medal. What I thought was really interesting in that men's competition, a very different style to the Australians, quite big and physical like they are in Super Rugby, and it'll be really interesting. I'm not sure if they're playing Fiji over in Australia, but it's a similar style to Fiji plays, and they were very dominant against the Australians. But I wonder if they will be playing the same style against the Fijians. Yeah, well, so the Australian men didn't really want to engage in that physical, and I don't know if we've got there, but the fen that William Warbrick, one of the new rising stars, put on one of the Aussies, it was right in the face and just got rid of him, and they're big physical guys. And yes, that is, I believe, the plan. They're going to play an Oceania tournament in Townsville, so Fiji will go because they haven't been able to play, and I know New Zealand and Australia are really keen to try and get them some footy as well. So the Fiji men's and women's teams will also go to Townsville, and as I say, they won't come home. The New Zealand teams won't come home after that. That's when they'll start to make the cuts, and year 4 have to go and sit in a hotel and all of that. Is there a really clear picture around for them what it looks like in terms of Tokyo, in terms of the way they're going to go from hotel to venue to? How does it look
Tokyo? It is Tokyo.
Yeah. So the New Zealanders, they'll go to Townsville and they'll have, that's where the 18 will become 16 and 16 will go to Okinawa and that's where they'll have a training camp from there. The actual Olympic squad, though, will be named in Townsville, the squad of 12, plus 4 extras go over and one of those becomes your 13th player. Then they'll go into Tokyo, I think about 5 days before. They're allowed to go into the Olympic Village 5 days beforehand. They play their competition. The men play the first 3 days, I think 26th of July off the top of my head. Then the women play their competition 3 days later, and then a couple of days later you're out and coming home, sitting in a hotel. You've either got a gold medal or you're 2 weeks drowning your sorrows in an MIQ room.
It's mind-blowing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very challenging.
It's going to be a different Olympics for everybody, and such a different territory for anyone to have to deal with. I don't know how you prepare for that. I mean,
and again, interesting to be away for 8 weeks before that. I think the real balance between actually getting the technical stuff right and getting the players in a space where they're going to be able to have to deal with all those challenges.
Okay, how confident are you on these two teams right now?
I'm confident. I reckon we'll get 2 medals.
I think it's really, really important for our brand as well. I think Asia's really growing in the sevens. I think the female game is it's a great pathway into the 15s. And I think we're all disappointed in the last Olympics that we didn't come back with a gold medal. So I think there's a lot riding on it. And I think the challenge is, when you look at the opposition, is it good that Fiji haven't played? Or is it bad that we haven't seen them, because they're an incredible side. So it's hard. You're going in a little bit blind.
And not having played a lot of tournament time, I think that's the other thing I'm concerned about is not having that ability to relax under the pressure, even though you've got to get to a level. If you get yourself too hyped up, Mills, the fact you've got to have that balance right. And particularly, you're not going to win it on the first day, but you've got to win in the first day, knowing on day 3 that's when it's going to be played for.
And this is where the strong point for the Fijians, because they're so relaxed. It's not like the 15s. They run into this, and this is what they do on a daily basis in the islands when they're throwing the ball around. It's that sort of style, they come in very relaxed and all of a sudden they blossom. So am I confident? Yeah, fairly confident, but those Fijians also, particularly in the men's, man, you can't write those guys off, and particularly what they've done last time.
Just talking about that, Mills, that's what I really enjoyed about the other day when I was, pre the Blues game. I was watching the both teams warm up, and they were just having a good time. The Super Rugby guys ran out and they're all, can't even...
Game face on.
The Sevens, they were laughing, and I just thought, it takes me back to, having fun. Good.
Yeah, it's what we love about the Sevens. I think women's team look to be a cut above even what I saw today, the other day. I tell you what, all 4 teams, they're all so fit. They look like a bunch of blooming thoroughbreds. Me with all my layers on, it wasn't a pretty sight. But a great job done as we head into club news by the crew down at Grammatech in Auckland. Really good weekend. Right, let's get into club news. And Fielding Yellow have the longest winning start to the club season with 9 undefeated games after they beat Te Kawo 22-19 in the Manawa 2 Senior 1 competition. Also unbeaten but with 7 wins are Hamilton's Fraser Tech, Te Hiro from the East Coast, Hastings Rugby and Old Boys in the Wellington comp. In the Bay of Plenty, Nongataha was smacked 43-14 by Te Puke Sports. Across the other side of the North Island, in the Barrett's Coastal Club were thrashed 59-0. Sorry about that, Barrett's by Inglewood. In the other bay, not the real one, Hawke's Bay, Clive women smashed Taradale 60-22. In the Buller competition, Westport lost 22-29 to Old Boys and White Star beat Reefton at 21-10. In Central Otago, their State of Origin match saw Central Counties and Central Lakes battle to a 12-all draw. The county side was coached by All Black Andrew Hoare and Lakes by another former All Black, Simon Mailing. And lastly, Wainuiomata farewelled an absolute legend over the weekend, Brian Watts, who was aged 84. Watty to anyone who knew him. And here they are singing their club song to remember a great man. He was a life member and held pretty much every role there is in a club. He was dad to 17 of his own kids and fostered 12 more. And he was with his wife Anne for 62 years. Our Ken Laban reckons you'd struggle to find a better bloke. What a wonderful send-off from the Wainuiomata club. So from a legend of grassroots footy to one of the greatest to ever lace a boot, Kieran Read is on the show after the break.
Kieran how you hit them, and they'll stay down when you get hit like that.
Here we go. Round 2 of Super Rugby Trans-Tasman. It's so good having the Aussies back, isn't it? Where their coaches wear hats like this and their players say things like this.
Yeah, good to get points on the board, and now we're a bees stick away.
Even the refs are giddy about seeing the Aussies again. The Aussie commentators were being pretty harsh on Mitch Hunt, though.
Overcooked it. Mitch Hunt just drags it to the left. Hasn't been a happy night for Mitch Hunt.
I suppose you could say there was a witch hunt for Mitch Hunt. Okay, that's it. Won't give it into that. There was a real good Sabenia in the crowd this week. The Brumbies assistant coach had to leg it mid-interview. See you, Rob. See you, mate. And the ultimate kick in the face, Kane Katika got actually kicked in the face, and the other team were awarded the ball. There was a lot to unpack in the crowd this week. Firstly, this woman was given her best the Scream impersonation. Below her, this woman was just going bananas. This guy wanted to go bananas, but just didn't quite have it in him to get off his seat. Then on the other side, this gentleman just gave a quiet, solitary raise of his cane. I salute you, Perth boys. Yep.
Every week I survive off the ball, I'm a happy man. That's the way it works for me. If I get through that and I'm not featuring, I've managed to avoid the play. All right, this is exciting for us. He's finally hung him up. Kieran Read, how many did he play? I got written down 156 games, Super Rugby, 128 tests. Kieran Read joins us from MIQ. And, mate, thanks for joining us. I see you're fully robed up, so obviously it's nice and relaxing time at the moment. But I want to ask you this. Look at that. Sharp. The first time, when the whistle goes, when you know you're done, you hang them up. Did you bring your boots home? The mouth guard, is it in the bag? Or how did it feel when you knew you were done?
Oh, look, I knew I was going to be done a while ago, most definitely, at this stage of my career, obviously. And it's... So, no, I was very content. And the year it's been pretty tough. I've been away from my family for nearly 7 months now with the way COVID's been happening. I know exactly what I was signing up in Japan for, but hey, it's the way it's been. So, no, I gave my boots away to a couple of kids after the game, and I'll take the mouthguard home and put that somewhere, you know, to remind me, I guess, of all the times I've worn it.
Hey, Kieran, welcome home.
Thank you.
What do you think the level was like up in Japan? Obviously, we've got Brodie and Bowden and TJ looking to come back and looking to slot back into a black jersey. How do you think they'll transition back into that?
Yeah, look, it's you know, it's not Super Rugby, most definitely. After watching the games over the last wee while, it's, you know, they're pretty brutal. So there'll be an adjustment. You know, but the game is improving up there. It's certainly fast. It's, you know, it's demanding on the body in different ways. But yeah, the intensity level is a lot down from what you're going to get in test matches, especially. So there'll be an adjustment there from those blokes. But look, they're more experienced enough to adapt to that when they need to.
Kieran, you're sitting in the change room at the end of the game last week, and you look back on your career. Your fondest memory?
Yeah, hey JK, it's I was a little bit emotional actually when I came off the field, knowing it was going to be my last game, and you know, I guess looking back there, it was just being able to sit in a changing room with blokes that you actually are good mates with, and you can look around and enjoy each other's company, which is the thing I'm going to miss probably the most. And those are the memories, I think, the special times after tours, after, you know, winning championships or winning any game really. They're definitely the moments I'll remember.
Rito, congratulations, bro. What an awesome achievement, man, and a great, I suppose, career. I want to ask, bro, you know, you came into to being the captain. A difficult transition considering the style of captain that Richie was. It'd be fair to say he was sort of straight down. Perhaps didn't like the chat off the field. You're very much hands-on in terms of the players, and particularly the young guys coming through. Was that something you had to be really mindful of when you became the captain?
Hey, Millsy. Oh, look, man, I guess that was probably just my personality, I think. And, I definitely felt that, the nature of guys coming into the game now, I think if you can really look after them, get to know the guys and, build trust that way, I think it has a great impact on the game. So that's probably just me as a person, really. And definitely as a leader, I try and utilise that trait.
So, Rito, if you've known that this was coming, have you thought post-career now? Or is it more is it about you're going to take some time? Have you got any thoughts? I mean, some people automatically have got something they're looking to go to, whether or not it's in the media, whether it's coaching. Have you got some things you've already considered you might do?
Look, I've got a few thoughts in my head, but nothing concrete. And I think I'm just going to enjoy the next few months, I think, just to settle down, get back and, find some time with the family, which is going to be really nice. So I can't wait for that. But certainly, I don't want to waste what I've learned over all these years in rugby. And I want to give back to the game in some way. But certainly in a leadership point of view, I'd love to, pass on what I've learned to as many people as I can. So we'll see what that looks like in the future.
Rito, you're one of our greatest. Who was the greatest All Black you played with?
Oh, the greatest would be Richie, 100%. In terms of the full package, I think if you're looking at talent, then DC, you would be that guy. Like what those two could do on the field. DC, what he could do on the field was remarkable and ridiculous. And for me, like I trained, basically my whole career with Richie alongside each other for so long, and what I learned off him around work ethic and pushing yourself to the limit, and then show it on the field was pretty phenomenal. So, pretty blessed really to cross paths with those guys.
Rito, is one of the reasons why he went back to counties, NPC, was that why to touch base with it? Because you've just mentioned two Crusaders, mate. Come on, give some love to the bloody North Island, bro.
Oh, mate, that's I guess in my heart, my home where I grew up is Counties Manukau, and for me, it was a dream to go down and pull on the jersey. And so, look, I had the opportunity last year. I absolutely loved it, and really just to be able to give back and play with a lot of the young talent that's coming out of that region, because it's fantastic. And look, I think it's awesome for me to have played in that competition with them, and I think it's going to be something I'll hold through my rest of my life.
Mate, I'm loving that you're rolling with the moustache. Are you using some wax, and how long do you think it's going to survive? You've been away 7 months. Is that going to survive getting home or not? It suits you.
Oh, thanks, mate. Thanks. Yeah, I really think it does too. But it's probably the way the vibes are coming off from my wife and my kids. It seems like I'm going to have to shave it off before I walk in the door. So, it's times are numbered, I think.
Would you listen to the people if the people voted? I mean, Jack, there's a population out there who've got a lot to say. I mean, if we got overwhelming support for it to stay, do you think it might survive?
Yeah, but it's, it's not my decision. That's what it comes down to.
It's not your decision. I like your honesty there. One of the things we have talked about, obviously, with Sam Cane being injured, just the last thought is that we're going to need leadership going forward this year. And the mention of Sam Whitelock taking over that mantle, are you surprised or not surprised about how he's managed to, once again, redefine the way he seems to play, and this year just been on top of his game?
I think I played with him for a long time, and to me, watching it from afar, it looks like he's really upped his energy levels on the field, and it's fantastic to see. He's always been someone who works so hard and does all the little things that you don't normally see on the field, and doesn't get the plaudits for it. So mate, he's someone who's going to go out there and do the job, whatever team he's involved in, and he'll give us 100%, and he'll keep doing that.
Mate, Rito, it's great to have you back in the country. It looks as though you're well and truly comfortable here in Auckland and MIQ. You're going to spend a nice week preparing yourself to get home, but you deserve everything that you've had in the game, but also now you deserve your break. Enjoy when you get home. Enjoy spending time with your family. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to catching up soon. And it sounds as though it'll be around the rugby traps somewhere, but what you've said, that you've got plenty to offer. So thanks very much once again.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
I think we got him some doubts. Some doubts there. The fact that maybe it could survive, you know, the conversation.
The Mo.
Do you want it to stay or not? Oh, hold on, this is coming from you.
Absolutely not. He doesn't have a choice, even if he wants to.
Yeah. Fair point.
Well, I've got tickets to give away. We shouldn't forget about that. We've got tickets to give away to all of our games here in New Zealand. So make sure you email us at thebreakdown@sky.co.nz and you can be in the chance to go to these games, which for me have been fantastically entertaining, and we've seen certainly some of the best out of the New Zealand teams. Anyone picking an upset this week? We say it every week because this is week 3. The Blues have got the Brumbies. Brumbies, you respond. How do we see that? Does anyone see something different happening this weekend than another 5 wins?
Oh, I think the Chiefs got the hardest trip, haven't they?
Townsville?
They've got to Townsville,
Yeah.
so it's a long trip. They're not back for a wee while. I think they might be leaving tomorrow, actually. So I think, you know, it's going to be a hard ask for them.
I can't believe you're saying that of all things. Hannah, for you?
It's the hardest, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be any upsets. It's now turned into battle of the bonus point, so watch for some teams trying to get as many points as possible.
And JK?
Well, I'm sort of hoping for the Australian sides that they do learn. I think that the Waratahs were good in patches, but they just didn't. They made mistakes under pressure. So
you're getting ready to raise your arms.
Bonus point this week, and we'll be in the final.
You'll be ready to raise your arms. That's us on the breakdown here tonight. But make sure you stay with us. All access behind the scenes. It's coming up. It's that Hurricane, that All Black, Ngani Laumapi.
For me, I definitely want to be the best 12 in the world.
Go inside the 4 walls of the Hurricanes hitman.
I have to keep working hard to get to where I want to be.
From Monday
It's normal, guys. It's so good. So good.
to game day.
Playing the Crusaders this Sunday, I expect nothing but greatness.
This could be sensational. All access. Ngani Laumapi. Premieres Monday. Sky Sport 1.